Ever so often, we get to reach young, dynamic entrepreneurs. Today, I have a very dynamic and young personality in studio who is multi talented. I say multi talented because this individual is young, but is a visionary, is young and is a rising star in business, and they're pushing for tremendous success. I believe that the person you're about to be introduced to is someone that you should follow, someone that you should like across social media, and you can take a page out of this young person's book. Now, without delay, I want to introduce to you no other than Danielle Francis.
Good afternoon. Good
Danielle,
afternoon.
welcome, my friend. Danielle is multi talented, as I said. He's a self published author, he is also a publisher, and he has a major event coming up on the 23rd of this month. And this event is a major event for writers, and he will talk to us a little bit about that today. But this is not the beginning and the end of Daniel. Daniel is also an entrepreneur. He's a businessman. So as I said, I'm quite certain that you can take a whole lot away from Daniel, and I know that he's going to share some of his tricks and techniques, his pathways to success. Daniel is also an aspiring, self-made millionaire. I am certain that with how hard he works and his vision, that he's going to get there in the not too distant future. That is not all. Daniel is a coach. Daniel, he's a mentor. He's an advisor to many in the literary world. Daniel, I must say it gives me tremendous pleasure to welcome you today and to be talking to you about your experience and your journey and all of your future expectation in the literary world.
Thank you so much for having me and for that great introduction, I must say. Really excellent.
You're welcome, my friend, and you're well deserving of it. But Daniel, one of the first thing I want you to talk to me about is tell us about this event, the April 23rd event. Help the public to understand what is the importance of this and what do you hope to achieve with this event?
Right. So the event is on Tuesday, the 23rd of April, which is World Book Day. I thought it was a very significant day to do the venture that I'm putting together here. It's an event from 4 to 10 p.m. and it's called the First Caribbean Author Conference. So it's the first, as the name suggests, the first author conference that has been put on, right? I think for me, I tried to create an event that alleviates a lot of the problems and friction that I would have experienced when I first self-published my first book. Those issues would have been having an author community, persons I can ask questions from, persons I could learn from, that kind of thing. Knowledge, specific niche information, not only on how to write and edit and publish, but Caribbean specific information, because being a Caribbean author is different than being an author in other places. And then also I really wanted a place to like launch my new book, How to Write and Self-Publish Your Book as an Aspiring Caribbean Author. And I thought that topic fit perfectly into what we were trying to do for the conference. So the conference is basically a combination of solving all of those issues. On one end, we have an author village where authors can be giving authors a free space to promote and sell their books so the public can come in for free and patronize them, support local authors, and even for the authors that can't make it in person, we will be running their information on the screens, so everybody is going to get that access. And then from 7 to 9, we're going to have the conference portion. We'll be talking about all the different aspects of publishing, writing, editing, giving that aspiring author who's in the audience everything that they need, whether it's from the information, whether it's through an author panel that we're going to have, whether it's through the resource panel that we're going to have with different individuals who play different parts in the full process of self-publishing. The conference is meant to be that one-stop shop for information. It's meant to be that place where you can come, network, meet authors, meet resources that can help you do what you need to do as an aspiring author or even as a published author. And it's everyone that attends gets a copy of my book which I really want to share out there, because it can be that physical embodiment of that one-stop shop of, okay, you want to write a book, you want to publish a book, here's everything you need in written form.
Right. I really admire what you're doing, because I do believe that what you're doing is very significant. It's significant based on the fact that, one, I'm a self-published author myself. I've interfaced with many authors over many years.
Right.
And what I see happen very often, you write the book, and what's next?
Yep.
They struggle to get visibility. They struggle to reach their ideal client. They struggle to monetize their process. And what I'm hearing is that what your company has set out to do for many Caribbean writers is to provide them with that platform, that springboard that will take their book, help them to get the visibility, and possibly help them to monetize that entire process. So
Yeah.
that is definitely good. Go ahead. Your
Yeah,
point.
definitely. Because as you're speaking, I'm just thinking about what when I first published, I just tried to get as much information as I could find, and a lot of the information was saying the same thing, that obscurity is the biggest enemy of your book. That idea that
Exactly.
no one knows about it, right? Uh, One thing I hate to see, and it always makes me sad when I see authors think that like a book is a passive form of income, that they just need to write the book, put it out there, and it just sells itself. And then they're so deflated when they put the book out there, they put all that effort into getting it out there, and then it doesn't sell. And that happens when you, as you say, you don't have a plan for what happens when you're done. You just put it out there and you're just hoping for the best. That's the business side of it that I like to focus on, and I really need to include when I chat about it, because some authors are just very creative and they live in that creative realm. So they don't think about what comes next. And I really try to educate persons as much as possible through my company, One Momentum Publishing, and all the videos I do, to say, hey, you can't just put a book out there and then expect that it will just magically sell. It's like any other product. You have to put some work and planning behind it.
Yeah. I was recently looking at one of your interview with a young writer, and I looked at the particular part where you were counseling her on the fact that not everyone will respond favorably to her book.
Mhm.
And I do believe that that is solid advice. I love what you said there, because I think as an author, one of the things that authors need to recognize is to find your niche, find your ideal client, research your ideal client, and you write for an ideal client. And with that ability, it makes it easier to put your content in front of your ideal client. And that in itself helps a whole lot in terms of, optimizing the saleability of the content. So I really love the advice that you were given to that young lady.
Yeah.
What I also love a whole lot is that you're educating them on the pathway to success, because it's more than just writing the book. What steps are you going to take to engage in public relation, engage in marketing, engage in distribution, engage in awareness? And I know that your operation is playing that dynamic role in helping. So again, I want to say kudos to you, because there's not many young people we see, would take up this type of challenge, because it is a challenge.
Yeah.
And you seems to be striving a whole lot in what you're doing. You seem to be having a lot of passion, commitment, and you get a lot of reward in one way or the other from doing what you're doing.
I think, and this is something I only, funny enough, realized maybe like a week or two ago. Um, because I started my career in leadership development,
Mhm.
I would have found that my purpose is tied to leadership development. And then, your dreams and all your goals kind of get tied there. But it only really occurred to me maybe last week that, hey, ever since writing this book and this whole publishing journey and chatting with all these authors, that I've actually created a whole new dream, and I hadn't even realized it, that I really want to create this space where authors can be empowered, aspiring authors can be empowered, and to break down these boundaries between Caribbean territories when it comes to books. I want to get to a space where we are one Caribbean, all our books are together in one. We have our own networks, we have our own communities, we have our own ways of when a book in, let's say in Guyana is produced, it can be easily brought to Trinidad and Grenada and Barbados and all these places seamlessly, as opposed to always, one needing Amazon, for example, right? Because as much as Amazon is a great platform and it can really give you that international reach, there's a nuance to focusing on home. The friends and families who want to see you successful, who will purchase your book, share your book, and build a solid foundation so that you can grow and reach even further networks. And then not everyone in the Caribbean can purchase a book on Amazon. So you have to create those pathways for them to get your book easily, which is why people might be confused as to why I'm talking about distribution and production of your book and all these things, because it's meeting your customer where they are and building from that foundation upwards.
Exactly. Man, there's so much that we can talk about on this particular subject. One of the things that I believe that every author should strive to be an influencer with their content, because what I've seen is that one of the struggles that many authors go through is breaking through the know, like, and trust. But when you are an influencer, it sets you up to break down those barriers much easier. But we'll talk about that some more.
Yeah, I have a lot of insight on that.
On that. Yeah, we'll talk about it, because I'm certain this is not going to be the first and last interview. I expect to be following up with you often and tweaking your brain a little bit on the strategies that you're using for success in your field. I want to ask you now, what is your definition of success? I know in your field you would have embraced success in different areas of what you're doing, but how would you define success?
All right. Well, I guess I'll pull back to my leadership development training and all that. We have a long definition for it, but really what it boils down to is goal-directed action. Your success is based on the results that you produce, and your results are based on the goals that you set and how successful you are at actually achieving said goals. So if it is you set goals for example, with me and my conference, I'm setting goals for, the amount of persons I want to be there, the impact I want to have, the amount of authors I'm able to set up and reach and impact. And all these targets are linked to goals that, once I hit certain levels to them and get certain results from them, it brings a certain amount of success. So it's really about what are the goals you're setting in all the different areas of your life, or big or small, and what are the results you're getting from them towards your total success.
Great answer. I love that. I'm definitely looking forward to talking with you after this event, and when you would have evaluated the level of success you would have attained there. Now, what habits do you think is necessary to influence success in business and success in life? What are some of those essential habits that would have helped you?
I am big on having a morning routine. I might be biased because I am a morning person, but the research doesn't lie. You find that those persons who get up early, who attack the day, have a specific routine, whether it is they're meditating, they're reading, they're saying their prayers, they're reviewing their goals, whether that's 10 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes in the morning, or even an hour. That continuous habit of really focusing inward and, mentally, physically, spiritually preparing yourself for the day ahead, it can tend to put you miles ahead. I'm big on basketball. One of my favorite players is Kobe Bryant. So when he was alive, he had this thing about being 1% better every day. And that's something that I try to live by. That's actually within my mission statement. And to me, it really is just a testament to doing a tiny bit every day over a consistent period of time. So if you know that for success for you, you look at the persons who are successful, you see what they're doing. Why not try to match them? If you can't do it fully, you start small. We know that successful people, they're reading every day. If you can't read that hour every day, start with 10 minutes. 10 minutes, continue to 20 minutes, continue to 30 minutes, right? No one is saying that you need to take this huge leap, but you need to start somewhere, right? You can't really, you don't find a lot of successful people can't manage their time or have a good understanding of who they are so that they can better put people around them who can help them to be better, right? So for me, I literally just think of all the different aspects of me that are deficient or the parts that need some stability. And within my morning routine, I would add those elements so that every day I'm just working on myself a little bit. So my morning routine might look like something simple as 10 minutes of silence, and I'll put some prayer in there. 20 minutes of reading, 5 minutes of reviewing my goals, 10 minutes planning my day. Simple, right? It might seem like very simple actions, but they have a huge impact on your daily life. Like, I can't imagine getting up now without planning my day for like a few minutes, because if I don't, I feel like I would just be running around, just doing random activities, not knowing, okay, is this going to help me get closer to my goals or targets? Is this going to, you can't prioritize what your top priorities are if you're not doing any little bits of planning in there.
I like that. So you are goal oriented, you're goal driven, and I guess that gives you the opportunity to evaluate your performance during and after you would have completed that day's task. I really like that because I do believe that very often we hear people say, hey, I don't set goal because when I set goal, it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
It means that you're constantly in a free fall if you're not setting goal. I think the challenge about goal setting, it's about pausing and really ensure that you have the right formula in terms of setting goals. And there are certain things that you need to understand about goal setting. And I do believe that when you adopt those practices, it helps you to be more successful.
Definitely.
But something else I want us to look at, because I see that very often many young persons, many rising stars in business and in life itself, they have a lot of great ideas that they're, floating. But it takes human resource, it takes technical resources, it takes capital resource to make those dreams become real.
Right.
And what I find that they do from time to time, they have plan A plus plan B and C and D. And knowingly or unknowingly, we see that when they are going about achieving success, when they have this type of habit, it undermines their ability to be successful. One of the things that we advocate a lot is a concept that we call the MVO. And what it means is the minimum viable offer. Instead of going to market with 3, 4, and 5 different things, you identify one thing, one, and you work on that one, meaning that you commit all your human, technical, and capital resource to that one thing until you actually actualize it, and then you move on to the next thing.
Yeah.
Because doing several things at the same time, it's taking your time, your energy, and your resources. And in most cases, at the beginning, you don't have all of that to drive the success of the vision.
Right.
What are your take on that? Do you think that as a rising star in the literary world, a rising star in business, you can multitask, or in your experience, is it better to do one thing at a time and do it well? And then when that scale up, you then delegate out.
Well, for me, I personally, I think multitasking is a myth. I don't think we really do multiple things at once. We basically just do one thing, then pause, and then do another thing, then pause, and come back to another thing, which is really us focusing, then losing focus, and then refocusing, which is actually, you lose time going that way as opposed to just doing one thing and focusing on it and getting in a flow. But of course, in an ideal world, that would be great. That would be excellent. But this is not exactly the theoretical world that we live in. I am obviously of the opinion that when you're trying to do all these different things, you have all these ideas. Obviously, it'd be great if you can just take one, commit all your time, energy, and resources into it, let it build up, and then once it's flowing, you move on to the next. That is always, that it just makes sense. But then it doesn't take into account that some persons, whilst doing that, they may get an opportunity that may not come about again, and it might be advantageous for them to now take that opportunity while simultaneously trying to keep the other one together. I think that really comes up to what a person's capacity is like. You have to know yourself. You have to know what you're able to take on and what you can't, um, to then be able to answer to that. So for example, a lot of what I do, people would say I do a lot of things, but I feel like I have evolved into each. It wasn't as though I was doing one thing and then I saw something shiny and then I went to that one and I'm doing, it was more they kind of created flow into each other. I'm doing leadership development, I'm training persons, I'm enjoying the journey. A lot of the persons tended to be millennials. I say, hey, how could I reach more people? Bam, write a book. The book is still tied into the leadership development because it's a personal leadership book. So it's still related and it's still attacking the same persons that I am essentially having conversations with, and then I'm doing the book and it's getting success and authors are reaching out. Bam, okay, I'm now educating authors, publishing for them. It was an evolution thing. It wasn't like me saying, let's do multiple things. So it's hard. I feel like it's not a hard and fast to say, hey, just do X. Do one thing, don't do multiple things. Because at the same time, if you are able to, as you say, those resources, like understanding that if you can surround yourself with a good enough team, that it's less on you doing things and more on your team working together, then it's very possible. Because even with the conference, I have a whole team around me. I have someone who deals with marketing, who on her team, like 3 of them. I have my assistant. I have someone who takes charge in the events. So it takes a lot off of me. So even though there's a lot of moving parts, let's say 10 moving parts, I'm really only focusing on 2 while the team handles everything else. So it allows my capacity to still be stable and manageable. So that's why I'd say it really does depend. And I think you have to have a really good understanding of yourself and what you're able to do.
Great point. Now, what would you say is your blueprint for success? I love how you address the first question, which is definition of success. I love how you relate to habits that influences success. What would you say is your blueprint for success? I love you mentioned delegation just now. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if it's that or if you have another secret sauce to success.
Success is such a broad thing, because I could say what my blueprint for success in my personal life is, and that's one blueprint. And then my blueprint for like business is a whole another one, But I would say at the core of it, it comes down to 1, understanding your purpose, 2, building habits, and it doesn't need to be many. It could be 2 or 3 habits that just add so much value to what you're doing. And then 3, having just the biggest dream that you can think of for yourself within whatever the space is, whether personal or business, and then creating goals based off of those dreams. Because I wouldn't want persons to start planning something from a place of less. You should be aiming for big, something huge, right? And use your goals to aim there. Because let's say you have a business and you know that, all right, if I sell 100 of these units, I will break even. Some people may aim for that 100 in the first month, but as few months go, you aim for the 100, you might get 60, you might get 70, make a loss of 30. Why not aim for 1,000? When you aim for 1,000, now your mind has to think of, okay, if I have to do 1,000, how do I reach more persons? How do I get the assistance to produce more resources? How do I even get more resources to give to 1,000 persons? Like, what are all these different things that I need to do to make it possible? And you've now kind of widened your understanding of things that you need to do. Through that journey, you might be aiming for 1,000, you hit 300, but guess what? The 300 is still way more than the 60 or 70 you would have gotten if you aim for 100. So that's why I would say start with dreams and then you list out goals, because you're using them as a precursor to that. So purpose, having those 2 or 3 habits that you keep focused, and then goals.
Dreams, goals, and the last one I want to add is think big.
Think big, basically, yes. Think big.
Think big. I love that. I love that. And what I love about what you said there and the thinking big part is that people tend to have a falsified notion
Hmm.
that there's a major difference between thinking small and thinking big.
Yeah,
Guess what? From experience, we can say that it takes the same energy.
it
In
does.
fact, it may even take less energy when you start to think big, because as you start to think big, you begin to recognize that it's not about depending on yourself
Mm.
only. It's about engaging with people. It's about forming healthy relationships.
Yeah.
It's about building trust and bond. It's about being able to delegate your vision now out to your team.
Hmm.
It's about motivating your team.
Yeah,
But if you just think small, me, myself, and I, it doesn't encourage you to go that big.
it doesn't.
And going big can make it easy
Yeah.
because when you go big, we also talk about that 20/80 rule, where you're now able to delegate 80% of the workflow
Hmm.
out to your team, and you're
Yeah,
just focused on the 20%,
definitely.
which means that you have more time to think creative and go after the things that really matters and for you. So I really love that. So
Yeah.
I trust that the audience is taking some notes here. So the
And I
first
just
thing
want
he said,
while you were
go
talking,
ahead.
just to add something that just came to me because it's funny that you mentioned that because in December when I decided to launch this new book and do the conference, I was thinking
Yeah.
small. I was thinking real small. I was like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna have a soft launch. It's just gonna have 100 people. Be quick, easy. No big financial investment. And then by the end of December, I'm just thinking to myself, why am I gonna go through all this work to do this small thing when I can just do a bigger thing? And it's probably going to be about the same amount of work. And maybe have to put in a little bit more money, get some help, but it'll be more worthwhile. And sometimes you just have to remind yourself, hey, this is what you should be doing. And then that would have changed into the conference being a lot bigger, higher targets, all this. I mean, I feel like I'm working really hard, harder than I might have, but it's still going
Yeah.
to be worth it at the end. Because what I tell persons who aim for these big goals sometimes, you should also think about like the worst case scenario. Because I find that when you think of the worst case scenario in these situations, you still come out a winner. You know, I could my conference could do terribly. I could have worst case scenario, I don't even think it would be that low, but like 50 to 100 people. There's still press, there's still marketing, there's still all these aspects of it that's still going to get attention so that the persons that come still get the value and I still get the attention for my business and my book. So no matter what, there's still something to be gained when you go big, as opposed to if I went small and I didn't really hit, it would actually be pretty more devastating with the same amount of work. So yeah, I just wanted to add that in there because that came to me while you were speaking.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. You aim for the sky, and
Mm-hmm.
if you get to the clouds, you're higher. You're still
Mm-hmm.
many feet off the ground, right? So I love it. So I'm trusting that the listening audience and those who will be listening to the replay are taking notes. And one, Danielle spoke about the importance of purpose. You want to know your purpose, and I think that is so 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 important. It's an anchor point for your life and for your business to know your purpose. He went on to talk about building habits and two or three healthy habits, perhaps surrounding your purpose. He talks about the dream. He talks about goal setting, and
Mm-hmm.
of course, he talks about thinking big.
Right.
Love that. So, the next topic I want us to look at is doing business can be challenging.
Yeah.
What are some of those challenges you had to overcome to be at this point of success in your life? I know sometimes challenges could be, someone say you're thinking too big, and you're a big dreamer,
Mm-hmm.
um, or it could be any other thing. It could be access to capital to move that vision forward. What are some of the challenges that you had to overcome to be where you are today?
I mean, I still think I have a long way to go. But I know at the beginning, one of my major challenges was that I wasn't knowledgeable enough. I could tell that I needed to learn more. I needed to experience more to better help the persons that are coming to me, for training or for whatever aspect of things they will, especially when I just started with the leadership development. Um, I think that was a very hard hurdle to overcome because you have to now say, I am deficient. And you have to be open to the idea of, hey, I need to do better. I need to be better. Um, but when you walk into these things as a lifelong learner, it becomes a bit easier, right? So at that point, I would have said, okay, time to read more. I would have started reading like a book every week or 2 weeks, especially in the self-development field. That actually would have helped me to write my first book because when you read like 30, 40 books in a year, you start to connect the dots to say, hey, I can definitely do this. I think hearing no was another obstacle to deal with because you get a lot more no's than yeses as you learn from when you're running your own business and you're trying to do sales and these aspects. You get a lot more no's and you get yes, and you have to get accustomed to that. You have to get accustomed to people turning you down. It should be seen as a tool to grow because it means that something about your approach wasn't well thought out, or maybe the execution, and you can start tweaking things slowly so that you can get better. I think another major one for me was that this idea of not trying to go alone. So at first I was just what they call it, chief cook and bottle washer, basically doing everything and just burning out. Back in those days, I was creating all the content, posting all the content, doing all the sessions, scheduling all the sessions, doing everything, running around like a madman, 15 to 18-hour days, thinking that this is what it's supposed to be like, and just being burnt out every couple of days. And it was only when I got to the point where I said, listen, this can't be the only way. And you get more into the leadership development and you learn about delegation and all these aspects of things. When I stuck with this idea that I have to build a team around myself, everything that I do. There's no way that I am going to be doing these things alone anymore. So this is why you would see for the conference and even for the book launch and all that, I have a team around me. Again, I said I have my marketing person, a team lead, admin, because what's he saying? You want to go fast, go alone, but you want to go far, go with others. Yeah, I'm fully on board with that because I think it's a necessity, and you just do so much more when you are in a team. Um, was there anything else really that was difficult? I think also having to say no to persons. You want to service everyone, you want to meet everyone where they're at and help them any way that you can, but sometimes by saying yes to everyone, you basically hold yourself back from being able to help in better ways. I experienced that when the first book came out and persons kept asking for help. And I kept saying, yeah, let me call you and I'll walk you through the process. Yeah. And I'm just saying yes every day and I'm calling people all day and wasn't really getting anywhere. And then I had to get to the point where I'm like, okay, let's set up a webinar. And every week or every month, I'm just going to give her the information so that I don't need to be speaking to persons on a one-on-one basis every other day for something that I can just put out there for persons to view whenever they want. There's this inherent internal battle you can have where you feel bad for saying no, but hey, you have things you have to get done. You have your own priorities. And if you are constantly being interrupted or trying to do other things that aren't moving your needle forward, you'll find that you're more behind than ahead. So those are just some of the challenges that I would have had to really work on overcoming to kind of grow.
Awesome. I took away a lot from what you said. Mm-hmm. And I think that your challenge of saying no is not unique to you. It's more common than you can believe.
I would think so.
But what I take away that is so important is that you actually said it's not about working hard, it's about working smart. And what I find happens sometimes, because we are socialized this way, we are socialized that, working hard and have patience and good thing come to those who wait. And we are really never taught a whole lot, or not early enough, but the art of working smart. But luckily for you, you went through all of this when you were still young. and you quickly figured out that going alone is to go slow.
I got
Some people may have the falsified belief
yeah.
that if you um, become a jack of all trade and you do everything on your own,
Mm-hmm.
you're reducing the cost of doing business. But you're
Yeah.
not. You're killing the business. You're killing the business even before you give the business, enough breathing space to breathe. All
Definitely.
right. You know, delegation and teamwork and networking creates that lever, and that lever, you know, it's magic in your hand when you know what you're doing. So I'm really happy that you would have figured this out. And again, I'm trusted that those who are listening and looking at habits and money and the bestseller portal, they are taken away from your experience, because I do believe by listening to you, um, there's a lot that they can learn. So, thanks for being open and,
Of course.
sharing your experiences. Like now, I know looking back, now you have, at this point, you have knowledge, you have experience, all of those things that you wish you would have started with
Yeah.
when you got started. But regardless, you started, and I think that is admirable. You didn't allow the lack of knowledge and the lack of experience to put you in the corner and you say, I can't do this because I don't know.
Right.
You use that don't know to propel yourself to become a knowledge work in your field. And today you're on that springboard, and you're going places because of that. But when you look back, you're now you're at that panoramic level. You can look down and you can see back at some of the things you might have done.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any regrets that you think is perhaps holding you back or pushing you forward?
I don't necessarily have any regrets in my life. I think I got to a place where I got excited when I saw challenges. I mean, it's always tough when you're in the challenge, but when you've overcome it, you don't realize how much you've grown. I like to take stock of my year at the end of the year, and I write it down in a little journal and I check it after, every year. And when you look at what challenged me in 2018 versus 2019 versus 2020, you see these challenges, and the challenges helped me to grow so much that when I think about them now, I can't even see them as challenges if they came into my life. And that's only because I had to be in the challenge, right? So all these mistakes and quote unquote failures and difficulties and lows, they are always hard in the moment, but you can't grow in comfort. So obviously, it's in these moments of adversity and difficulty where you're challenged, and within that challenge, you're forced into a state of growth and development. And how do you overcome this challenge? Of course, once you have that positive mindset to do so, and it just shows like I would not be able to, let's say, put on an author conference today if I hadn't you know, experience what I experienced throughout my life. The failed events, the difficulties with clients, the writing a book and not formatting it properly and learning the hard way how bad that was, and having mistakes here and there. And these experiences of going into things without proper knowledge and being burnt and then saying, okay, let me do better. Because if I didn't experience those things, I would not be able to impart the same knowledge to other persons with such intensity so that they know, hey, don't do it, right? Do it this way instead. And I can only say that because of what I experienced in those lows and those quote unquote failures and those difficulties. So now when I have these challenges where I'm like, okay, this is looking like it's going to be a tough one. Part of me is like, oh, this is going to be tiring. But there's a part of me that's excited because I know what comes after that is going to be growth. And with growth comes a level of resilience that I know that whatever's coming next is just going to be bigger and bigger and bigger. And I'm just going to be able to develop to match that.
Um, are you aware that you're a very unusual person?
I
Listen,
get that quite a lot. So it's
listening to everything that you have just said, you're very unusual. I mean, you sound like you're the kind of person that is going to look at challenge and you say, "Here I come," and
yeah, I
you're not
mean,
turning
but
back.
this is why I'm here now. Like I said, I planned a small lunch a small conference, and I did 10 times that, and now I'm here. Like, hey, I put myself here, so I might as well get it done. And there's always some kind of key learning or plan within there, but at the same time, I see the value in challenges. I see the value in that.
Awesome. I trust that the young persons and people generally who are looking at this program are definitely listening and learning. Very often when I talk with young persons like yourself, I often have to say, this is an adult trapped in a young person, which is not a bad thing, right? Because you sound more mature than your age. So kudos
Yeah.
to you.
I think it's the
Yeah.
leadership development in me.
Uh,
I think it's because I started in coaching and leadership development. It gives me a
leadership.
really good foundation because I can just practice what I preach. All of it helps me to stay, organized and stay driven and motivated and all that.
Awesome. Well, kudos to you and the community that really helped to shape who you are.
Mm.
What would you say inspire you and to become an influencer in your industry? You're not just a self-published author. You're not just a publisher. You are an entrepreneur. What are those factors that you would say inspire you to say, hey, I want to fulfill a purpose here. This is what I want to do. I want to touch
Right.
life. I want to transform lives. I want to make impact.
Right.
Talk to us about that.
Yeah. No, I don't necessarily see myself as an influencer. I more see myself as like a key person of influence. I think that I built layers to myself that help me to be that person. When you think of a certain area or certain field, you're like, okay, they'll be helpful. And for me, I think it's just been an evolution of my thinking because initially I wanted to be a doctor, right? But the doctor came from this idea that I wanted to help people. That was what I believed my mission was. When I couldn't commit to becoming a doctor, I realized that my mission was too vague. When I said I wanted to help people, I hadn't identified how do I want to help persons, which is why I could not commit to becoming a doctor. But I didn't think I wanted to help people in that way. When I was introduced to personal development and leadership development, I realized, I want to help persons become better versions of themselves. Back then, I thought that was it. This was my forever mission, and this is where I'm going to be heading for the rest of my life. And it's only through COVID and having to diversify the different things that I do and bring in different income to survive that I realized that it's not actually that I want to help people specific, like vaguely, or it's not that I just want to help people through leadership. I had to tweak my mission, and my mission really has transformed into I want to help facilitate greatness in others by using the resources and experiences that I have, right? Steeped in excellence and leadership and empathy. And what that means is that when I, dive into something, whether it be leadership development or becoming an author and publishing or marketing, some specific part of marketing or events, I want that when I dive in, I'm soaking in all the information, I'm soaking all the experiences, and then I am now directing that to facilitate greatness, whether within an individual or an event. And that is where my purpose lies. So now it's not so much a singular focus, it's more whatever I believe in my core is what I like to do and what I'm meant to do. It is just spread out through my core into other individuals and other events. So like my friend, I would have posted like all the different things that I do, and he brought it to my attention that that's called being a portfolio career man, because I have these specific portfolios of things that are near and dear to me that I work on that mean a lot to me, and that's how I transfer like my energy and my information to others. Because in anything that I do, there's always going to be an element of sharing information. Because if you look up any of my social media, One Momentum Publishing, yes, I am a publisher. And yes, I'm an author, but the information that I put out is how you can do it yourself, what things you need to know so that you don't get caught in any particular traps. And any aspect of what I do, I follow that trend, whether it's leadership development, whether it's publishing, whether it's events. I'm always there to kind of educate a certain amount because I think education is free. I think education helps you make a more informed decision. And the person that, for example, wants to self-publish their own book, they want to do the research, so you facilitate them getting the research. The person that wants to pay for self-publishing services, they'll pay for it, so set up that facility. You know, you have to meet persons where they are, and you don't have to necessarily force them into what you want them to do. And that's kind of the model that I live by, and that's exemplified by my mission. So that's kind of where it kind of all comes together for me.
Well, I must say I admire your humbleness and your modesty. One, you deny that you're an influencer.
I'm not an influencer. I don't think so.
Well, perhaps let the public be the judge. And
Oh boy.
from my vantage point, you know, I have been watching you for a little bit now. I have been watching you talking a lot about, you know, the writing world. I have often see you, you know, confidently hold that book and you put a photo out into the world. And I'm
Yeah.
saying, you know, I like what this young man is doing. He's creating visibility for himself. And, you know, a knowledge worker has an influencer. So I'm endorsing you as an influencer. Let us see what what the other
It's a
public is.
public opinion. I don't know about all of that. I just know how to brand myself, I guess.
You got it. You got it. Um, how, what impact do you want to make, and how do you want to be remembered? I know you're early on this journey,
Hmm.
but as you fulfill purpose, what specific impact you want to make, and how do you want to be remembered?
I think the simplest answer to this will just be I just want to be remembered as someone that when I interact with somebody, I help them become a better version of themselves through the interaction, whether that's in a specific field or just in general. So whether it is through leadership development, whether it is through the events or books or something, I just want to leave a positive mark on those that I interact with. I think that's the most I can ask. That's the most I can do. I, I most things that I do, I come from a place of empathy, whether for myself or for others. So you'll see, even with the author conference and the book and all that, it came from a place of I had a bad experience. I had a rough experience. I don't want anyone to experience that. Here's what I'm doing to solve that. With the leadership development, I thought I wanted to do something my whole life and I didn't want to do it anymore. I'm super disorganized. I know what that's like. I know what it's like to be lost. I know what it's like to not have everything together. Here's what you can do to change that. And I just want people to see that's my mission, so that they know that they can come to me for that type of help and they will receive it once they, come to me. That's as simple as I could put it, because I mean it's all these different things. It can all seem like unrelated, but it always kind of boils down to that. Um, just helping to facilitate greatness in others.
Well, I must say, you know, I do believe the highest level of service is service to humanity. And I can see you're definitely on that pathway where you can have tremendous self satisfaction by doing what you're doing. And the way you coin your words, also your thought process, also it also tells me that you have some major business hacks. Because one of the things that we looked at in marketing, I've lectured marketing for quite some time. I would always say to a student, if you focus on adding value and if you focus on fixing problems, the cash flow will come. You don't even have to worry about it. Throughout this conversation, you haven't one time say that you do what you do because you want to cash flow optimize. It's all about, you know, adding value to people. It's all about fixing their problems. So I must say, you know, kudos to you, my friend. I think you have a lot going on for you. Now, what are some of those major future plans that you have for your brand?
Sorry, Major, what?
Future
future.
plans that you have for your brand?
Yeah. So I would say, well, since we're speaking on the self-publishing, one of the goals I want that are pretty big is basically, so within the business, I have created a Caribbean author village. So this is a Facebook group and a WhatsApp group, which is basically just widely a community of Caribbean authors and aspiring authors. What I really want to do is to just fill that group up to the thousands, because I think just by creating that community, that ecosystem, um, there's just too much positive things that can come out of that. We'll be creating more authors. We'll be creating, just pushing the Caribbean creativity more out to the world, because again, all the information will be in one place. You'll be more well informed, and a more well informed person will make better decisions. So you'll find that more books are going to be having a farther reach out in the world. And there's just so much positive things that will come from that, whether it's growth for my business, whether it's growth for persons within the group, and I just want to be known eventually as that I want my business to be stamped in the Caribbean as that publishing company that will help you in whatever way you need, whether it's information, whether it's publishing, whether it's just to join the community and foster that networking. I just want to be known for that within the Caribbean for what I'm doing with specifically this. Right, they're all kind of different little growth plans within there. I mean, you've seen it in this little thing right back there, but it's all built from that idea of we are one Caribbean. We need to break down these boundaries between us, because it shouldn't be this difficult to, let's say I have a book and somebody in Barbados wants to purchase it, but they have to go on Amazon. There must be other ways. So it's really going to be my mission to alleviate a lot of these issues, whether distribution, payment, the information, this idea of competition between authors. There's really none. it's really not like that. Even between publishers, because it's so funny. I have publishers in the community, and they'll be soliciting their work, and sometimes they'll message me on the side and say, "Hey, I'm not sure if I could solicit work because you're a publisher, I'm a publisher. I don't want to step on any toes." And I'm like, "Hey, it's its own ecosystem. I'm not here to gatekeep nobody. If you wanna push your services, get your work. That's fine with me. It's meant to be that place where everyone can kind of nurture and grow and eat. I'm not here to gatekeep nothing, right? And I think that it's going to be big. It's going to be big because as we continue to do conferences, as we continue to teach people, as we continue to put the word out there and aspire authors and help them to facilitate books, I think the Caribbean is going to be transformed in ways that I can't even really picture for now. But I know it's going to do some positive things.
Well, I must say you're onto something pretty important and pretty significant in touching and transforming lives.
Thank you.
As a publisher myself, as an author myself, I do see the industry through the eyes of not just having a book and publishing a book, is how to use that book as a springboard to create multiple streams of income. I bring a strong business background to this, and a lot of it focused on how to help the client to cash flow optimize. Right. So I know here we have a lot of talking to do, and do some talking in that regard. But I must say, as a young person, I truly admire your vision, and I want to give you all encouragement, and wherever we can support is to give you that support to achieve your Caribbean vision. I know for years we have been discussing the Caribbean single market and economy. I think it's over 35 plus years now. I trust that we can bring down some of the barriers. A lot of the barriers has come down, but the true integration, I think, is where major differences can take place. I want to move on to look at how important, looking at the big vision that you have, how important is access to capital for your future plans?
Yeah. I mean, I think I read this a while back, but I remember reading somewhere that you should never let access to money hold you back from doing big things. So I've never tried to, I always try to overcome that and never see it as a problem. So whether that means fundraising to get to my goals, whether it means taking out a loan to get to my goals, whether it means, taking on investments. Um, I try not to let that be the reason why I don't do something big. Because what ends up happening is when you take the loan, take the investments, whatever, you're kind of forced to put in a lot of thought into whatever the particular venture is. Because when you're dealing with other people's money or even your money and you have to pay back loan and all that, it's a huge responsibility. It's a huge commitment, and you basically need to cross all your T's and dot all your I's to make sure that, hey, I'm taking this money, but this is the plan, and this plan is very solid, or it's very weak, and I need to put in more work, right? So I try not to let that be the reason why I don't push forward a plan, money.
Right, great. One of the reasons I ask, part of what we do at Global Capital Inc. In the US, we work with businesses in all 50 states of the US to help them to access the capital to move their business forward. Now, what I always say as a rising star in business, it's important to have someone on your side that understands financial instruments. By that, what do I mean? There are different types of financial instruments. There's debt instruments, and there's credit instruments. And these two instruments, you have monthly debt obligation. Some you may have 0% APR. But as a rising star in business, you also need to know what is equity financing, because having an equity partner on your side may provide you a window to have someone who have similar interests, who likes the industry, who knows how to optimize the industry, and they're not looking necessarily for monthly repayments. They're going to take, dividends, and they're going to take, an equity in the operation. But along with all of that, they're coming to drive the operation growth and development. But we'll talk about that some more, because I do like the big vision, and there are a number of things that we can look at in terms of capital. We'll talk to you about that as time progresses and see exactly where you're at, where you want to go, and perhaps how we can come alongside you, particularly when your focus is to perhaps take the Caribbean brand and now take it global. And there is where we can definitely provide that kind of technical support. Now, the last question I want to ask you now is, what are essential money habits to have?
Essential money habits. We're talking personal or business?
Both. Take a jab at both.
I read an excellent book on money habits for personal use that really helped me last year. I don't know why I can't remember the name of the book right now, but it basically talked about putting your money into 5 different pockets and making it automatic. So it would have had, what you need to spend on a regular basis, tithes, investments, savings, and I'm missing one more, right? But it really splits everything down into perfect percentages. And I really liked how it covered the fact that when you make more, you're basically keeping the basic expenses that you always have at the same amount, even though you're making more. And increasing the percentages of the other areas like savings and investments and all that. And it was weird because it was also linked. It was like a book about God and how the Bible teaches you how to budget, which I did not know, but it was very insightful. And I've been using that basically as my guide for how I handle my, my personal expenses. And it basically helped to transform everything. And I really love that. And I do a similar thing with my business, whereby obviously you have what you put aside for taxes, what you put aside for investment. But I like to think of my business, which everybody should really be doing, as a separate entity from yourself. So from myself. So my business has its own moving parts. My business has its own needs, and I am just an employee in that business. So when I think about paying myself and how it operates, I think of it with its needs in mind and me separate from it. And that has really helped me to separate myself from the money in the business. Of course, there's always opportunity for growth in all these different aspects, but that simple, basic mindset has helped me to better manage, the cash flows within my business and how it moves forward. So I hope it helps anyone out there.
Yeah, definitely. What I would normally say to people You want to earn, you want to save, you want to invest, and you want to build wealth.
Mm.
So you earn to save, you save to invest, you invest to build wealth. And why do we talk about this? Because you often want to put yourself in that position where you are thinking how to increase your earning.
Right.
All right. And there are many ways in which you can do this. You can look at multiple streams of income, you can look at a number of things. You can also, once you're doing well with this, you want to find portfolios to save. You want to save because sometimes you learn save, but you don't get wealth by saving. You save for a particular reason. You save for emergency, you save for safekeeping, and you save for investment. But most people they save only for emergency.
Mhm.
And you always have an emergency. So that savings is never built up enough to go over to investment portfolios. And you have many diversified investment portfolios. And you want to ensure that those investment portfolios are really helping you to build wealth. So I love your takeaway. I know you talked just now about earning, you talk about saving, and you talk about investment. And I really trust that the listening public took away that because you definitely want to increase earning. You must save. Jessica, you're going to show you as 10%. Make sure you put aside that 10% into saving. And you're not saving for any emergency. You're saving for investment. That's all you're saving for if you want to build that. Um, Danielle, I must say it has been such a pleasure talking with you today. And I want to now give you a chance to perhaps say anything that you might have want to say that I might have overlooked and not asked. And
Mhm.
this is the opportunity for you to say.
Yeah, I mean, I would basically just say, if anybody's interested in joining our author community, interested in viewing the conference, we'll be doing virtual tickets for it. Coming up closer to the event, you can go to ompublishing.org. We have all the information up there. Um, I know as of right now, the book is literally just for Caribbean use, but I'll be putting it up on Amazon from April the 23rd so that anyone can purchase it from there. Um, I personally just think that there's a book in everyone. So I want to be able to facilitate that however I can, whether it's through education, whether it's through my book, or whether it's through someone coming directly to me and I'm helping them to publish their book. I think, whatever means you want to get there, that's your right. Um, because you never know how your unique personality expressed on the written word, how it can affect someone, whether it be through their creativity, whether it, emboldens them to write a book themselves, or whether it just betters their life. You really, really never know. So don't let the fact that there are books similar to your idea stop you, because there's no book written by you. Trust and believe that. Right. So I just want to say thank you so much for having me on the show. This has been a great little conversation here. And I look forward to future conversations.
All right. Thanks again for taking the time out to sit with me and share, Danielle. And I want to say to the viewers across the world, I know today that we are reaching over 50 countries. And I know that, and today we would have had over 30,000 persons over the last 2 to 3 months who would have subscribed to this challenge, to this channel. I am also aware that over 70% of those who are viewing the program have not yet subscribed. So I want to encourage you to subscribe. And why? Because you will be the first to get these information that we are bringing to you on a regular basis. We will continue to bring you information. So if you're an author or you're an aspiring author, if you're in business and you need to know more about business, on this program, while Daniel is an author, he helped you to understand how to think like an entrepreneur. And so there's a lot for you to take away when you subscribe. And I promise you that we will continue to bring more and more dynamic personalities like Danielle to this platform, so you will continue to learn smart, innovative ways to position yourself for greatness. Daniel, again, kudos to you, and I'm looking forward to hear more about the major event that you have coming up on the 23rd of April 2024. And I wish you all the success that you wish for yourself. And of course, perhaps I most likely will do another discussion with you dealing specifically with that event. I'll talk to you about it and
Mm.
see how we can help you to drive some traffic to that platform.
Okay, wonderful. I really appreciate it.
All right, my friend, you're welcome anytime, and do enjoy the rest of your day.
Same to you. And again, thanks for having me.